Thank you, Senator Unger. It's always a pleasure to be in Pocahontas County with, I remember going by Watauga State Park. That's where I spent my honeymoon. I'm divorced, but that was a good part of our marriage. Beautiful.
So it wasn't the park that made the divorce?
No, this area is a beautiful part of the state. I've been involved in redistricting. That's one of my passions is redistricting. Every time since the 1980s. And in my own hometown of South Charleston, I worked for single-member districts, wards, and we had a big fight with the city council there. We had some of our wards had 2 members, some had 1 members. And when I suggested we go all to single-member districts and shrink the size of the city council, you might expect that some of the incumbents weren't too happy about my proposal. And so I went ahead and we have initiative referendum recall in South Charleston. I got I drafted a proposed change to the city charter. Circulated. We had an election, and that was in 1983. We had 8 single-member wards, and so I always believe that single-member districts are the best because power should flow from the people. I'm not worried about which incumbents. I mean, that's what I worry about. I'm on the Kanawha County Democratic Executive Committee. I'll go and fight for my party, but generally, I think you ought to just follow the Constitution when you're devising these districts, whether they hurt or help incumbents, unless they're kind of right on the border. And so one thing I'm working on is a project that I'm doing myself to divide the state into 100 single-member districts. People have different ideas. I have certain criteria. I don't like to split municipalities if they're smaller than the size of a delegate district. I don't like to split municipalities if they're smaller than the size of a senatorial district. And I like to keep communities of interest, which is a term that means different things to different people. It has there's no comment about it in redistricting. You're supposed to go compactness, numerical equality, and as Senator Unger said, when he talks about the federal court standard is that the smallest district has to be, say, 90% of the largest, as a general rule. But the state constitution, though, says for state senatorial districts, you're supposed to approach perfection, but not divide county lines. But that was overruled effectively in a case called Baker v. Carr back in 1962. So since we're in Pocahontas County, clearly Pocahontas County is involved in single-member districts. When I designed that, there'll be no splitting up any. Pocahontas County as a unit will be obviously kept as part of a single-member district. You wouldn't split it down because it's less than 1/100th of the state's population. But let's talk about congressional districts briefly. I've submitted 3 different proposals that have been run through the computers of the redistricting office, and I understand they're online now. And I won't get into that because that doesn't seem to be a major area of controversy tonight. But I would like to talk about the state senatorial redistricting that I've been working on. The optimal number to the nearest integer is 109,000 people per senatorial district. The actual population of the state under the 2010 census is 1,852,994. You divide that by 17, and to the nearest integer, it's 109,000. Now, if you want to take it down to another 1 or 2 places, it's a little bit less than that. But for purposes of our discussion, I think that's close enough. And so I started with no preconceived notions, just to follow the Constitution as I understood the Constitution, and to try to divide the state into 17 districts of 109,000 and minimize the boundary lines, the county lines I'd have to split. And so I ended up only splitting 7 counties. 48 counties would not be split. And in this particular area, none of the counties would be split under the, I just wanted to respond to Senator Barnes' question. What I did, I always start from the appendages and work in. So the appendages are the northern panhandle, the eastern panhandle, and the northeastern corner of Preston County. So I try to have compact districts and then work in towards the center of the state. So if you start from the northern panhandle, you will find that all of Hancock, all of Brooke, and all of Ohio still don't have enough population to add up to 109,000. So what you have to do is, if you're trying to reach 109,000, is put about 1/3 of the people in Marshall County into that, what would be the new first senatorial district. And 2/3 we go into the new second senatorial district. And as I devised it, and I haven't drawn all the final boundary lines, I'm still working on it, I still have to divide up Berkeley County, but basically, Moundsville and Glendale would stay in the 2nd Senatorial District. So you come down, and then you got to figure out what to do next. Well, you put in all of Wetzel, and then you get down that, then we decide what to, we'll think about that after we work on the other things, what to do with the rest of the 2nd Senatorial District. The Eastern Panhandle, if you go from the end of the Eastern Panhandle, you have to go from Jefferson to Berkeley to Morgan to Hampshire, because each of those counties, those 4 counties, A touches B, B touches C, C touches D. So you basically can only go one way. It's the same way you come down the Northern Panhandle. If you put Jefferson and Berkeley together, you have more than 109,000 people. So you need to put part of Berkeley into one senatorial district and part of it in another senatorial district. So I would put all of Jefferson and the city of Martinsburg and a number of the precincts in Berkeley County that are located near the Jefferson-Berkeley County line. That would add up to about 106,599 or 600. And that the other part of Berkeley County would be put in with Morgan, Hampshire, and Hardy, and that would also be about the same population. Now that's where you'd have to split a county. Part of Berkeley would go into one, part of Berkeley would go into the other. But then when you keep going, what you do next is a little tricky. What do you do with that corner up there, that appendage on Preston County? Well, if you look at the original state constitution, they put Montague and Preston County together. Now, people say, well, they don't have great community of interest with Morgantown and Kingwood. And I said, in terms of compactness, the logical thing to do is to put enough people, put all of Preston County and enough folks in Montague County together to get 109,000 people, which is what I did. I put the rest of Montague County in with the 2nd Senatorial District. So, when you make those decisions, then you have to decide what to do with the 2nd Senatorial District further. And what works is you put all of Tyler, all of Wetzel, part of Marshall, part of Monongalia, and most of the population of Marion, which is a change because Fairmont right now is in the same senatorial district with Morgantown. This will change that so that Fairmont, in other words, your population center, it has nothing, you have a problem with folks in the 2nd senatorial district, it's not their fault. But because we're so, there's such a population district, a population loss in the 1st senatorial district, you had to add about 15,000 people to that district. So that means you have to push the thing down or push it to the east. So what works numerically is different than what the way that the senators are paired up right now. But the numbers do work. So if you take that as a given and you work your way down, you have to take care of the appendages first, then the logical way to draw what I would call the new 15th senatorial district would be all of the following counties: Mineral, Grant, Pendleton, Tucker, Barber, Randolph, and Pocahontas. And if my numbers are correct, when I added all those 5 up, no splits, it's all those counties, you get 109,698, which is pretty close to 109,000. Then, as I said last night, we had a meeting last night in Beckley. Long said the logical thing is put all of Fayette, all of Greenbrier, all of Summers, and all of Monroe together. That would be my new 11th district. It would have a population of 108,948. And then the geographical center of West Virginia is in Braxton County. And I made a senatorial district in which Braxton County was right smack dab in the middle of the district, as opposed to its current being bonded with Harrison. So if you put all of Gilmer, Lewis, Upshur, Braxton, Clay, Nicholas, Webster, that's 7 counties. That'd be my new 12th, and that would have 108,615. Obviously, the demographics are going to be different from the perspective of how your district now, but with including Harrison, Lewis, and Braxton is. But in terms of the state constitution compactness, it's pretty close. It's nearer to a circle. A perfect circle is 100% compact. This would be one of the most compact. I didn't say small. I said compact districts in the in the state insofar as it is more circular.
Read those counties again, please.
Okay, for the number 12?
Yeah.
Okay, that would be all of Gilmer, Lewis, Upshur, Braxton, Clay, Nicholas, and Webster. So it would be a different, obviously that's the very smack dab center of West Virginia. Because if Braxton County is this geographical center, then a district in which Braxton was the center would have to be the most central senatorial district in the state. So what happened to Harrison County? I put Harrison and Doddridge. Harrison, I didn't split up. It's one of the bigger counties I didn't split up. If you put Harrison, you look at the counties that are adjacent to it. Taylor, which is in a different district than it is from Harrison now, if you put Taylor, which is on one side, and Doddridge on the other, and the portions of Marion that are rural, that are in the southern and eastern parts, you add all that together, it's, I think, this is, I'll double check that, but I think it's 109,926. I don't need to go into the western part of the state. That's for another
Could
place.
you repeat it for new 15 again?
My new 15 would be all of Barber. I'm going to put my glasses on so I don't just. All of Barber, all of Tucker, all of Mineral, all of Grant, all of Randolph, all of Pendleton, and all of Pocahontas.
Thank you.
That certainly has some community of interest if you're talking about counties that aren't urban. I mean, that's a very rural, that they may not see themselves as having a community of interest, but as opposed to be putting them in an urban area, that is an extremely rural area. My dad grew up in Davis in Tucker County. My brother lives in Canaan Valley, so I traveled through that area quite a bit. So anyway, that's what I was going to recommend. So if you all have a different position, obviously anybody can come up with a different position, but I tried to minimize dividing up counties. And I also had a position, if you split up a big county, try to put the county seat in where you put the most people. In other words, if you're going to split up Marion County, don't have most of the people go in one direction and have the county seat in the other. Because I think that's really difficult for the people in the county to follow. That's not a legal requirement. That's just my personal idea that it's easier. One thing you have to do is try to have the people accept what you do. And if something looks really, really weird, people are going to say it's a gerrymander. So those are, I have other points I can make, but that kind of summarizes what I want to say, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak.